So John, November 3rd, we have the meeting at council for the historical.
I can't remember the date.
I thought it was November 3rd.
All meeting to order, please stand for pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll start out with the agenda this evening. If anybody who's here, there are copies of the agenda, the preliminary budget, and the capital improvement plan on that table. I would ask the board if we could add one item to the agenda to make a payment to Fallside Heating HVAC to the agenda. And make that a new number 19. We move public comment to number 20 and adjournment to number 21. So
Second.
any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Move on to public comment. If you could please provide your name, address, limit your comments to 3 minutes or less until we get a chance to go through everybody who wants to speak, and then we'll go back around and give everybody another 3. Anybody? Okay. Move on to communications, Jim. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Joe Lottie. I live at 3516 Rushman Road, on Hotels. Had some questions for the board tonight, if I may ask.
Joe, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
This is public comment. You're welcome to comment on anything you'd like, but it's not a question and answer.
Okay,
Correct, Sheldon?
correct. Well, then you'll have to bear with me as I kind of reconceptualize my questions that I intended to ask.
Sure. Take your time.
One of my statements is I want to make sure it's really clear that I'm not against the concept or idea of creating a memorial or a splash park to commemorate the fallen soldiers. However, I do have a lot of questions, and I would suggest that the town works with the village to discuss the possibility of having a proposed memorial at the already established Honeywell Falls Mendon Veterans Memorial. I would suggest that that the town considers using the apparent excess taxpayer funds to retire the library debt. I would suggest that the town ask for a referendum on the proposed splash park before spending nearly $1 million of the Mendon taxpayers' money. Such a large expenditure should be voted on and approved by the people, and I suggest we ask for public approval. Was there, I think I asked this already, was there a consideration to use the apparent excess taxpayer funds to retire the library debt? I would suggest that the town consider that. And I would also like to suggest that the town reconsider the proposal to hire a deputy superintendent that is a paid position. Why that's never been a paid position? It's always been volunteer, so why would it be paid now? I would suggest that the town publish the amount of reserve funds in the annual budget, if they are not already. I don't believe they are, because I couldn't find them. So the taxpayers can easily see what the town's assets are. I did have a lot of trouble finding that information. And finally, I would ask that the town disclose what the reserve funds will be left over after the proposed splash park is said and done. And that's my statement.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? All right, we'll move on to communications. Jim?
I don't have anything this evening.
Sheldon?
I have nothing.
Karen?
Just that we're having a meeting on, I believe it's November 3rd at the town hall for the historical group. And I'll be able to report- Yes, I'll be able to report next month.
Cindy?
I have a few things. First of all, we all attended the groundbreaking ceremony, which was rather moving and emotional. And I know Teresa commented to me afterwards how touched she is because that's the place she wanted. And she said she couldn't believe it. She's just very, very emotional about it and said, this is the place I wanted it to be, and I'm so happy it went forward. Also, the Veterans Day Luncheon is set for 11:30, approximately 11:30, whenever the ceremony in the center of the village is done. And we expect to receive some further information from you regarding that.
Here, right.
Here, at the community center, yeah. And
Is it gonna be a drive-through or is it gonna be a?
we talked about that, and that's something we were gonna talk
Okay.
about in a few minutes, I think.
All right,
Well, if
And,
you'd like to discuss it now. it's a
Okay.
great time.
Discuss it now.
okay.
We thought about, so John and I had talked about offering both. If people are uncomfortable coming into the building, they could certainly do the grab-and-go,
Okay,
the way we did it last year for everyone. And we wanted to bring that up here and discuss that possibility. Don't know if any of you have any thoughts on
I
that?
think that's a good idea. Very well received last year. And we had it pretty organized.
It was a well-run machine.
No, I think offering both for, folks who come in and sit and have a meal with their family, and be able to converse with other families, I think is a good idea, but by the same token, I wouldn't want to eliminate anyone from attending because they don't want to come in, they would rather take it to go.
I agree. 100%.
Okay,
I'm good.
I'm good with that too.
Diana, of course, yes.
And the only other thing I have is that the library is going to be closed November 5th for staff training.
Again, I just want to make a couple comments about the ceremony tonight, having been on Maryland with Cindy and John, both Johns, for your hard work. It was nice to see Steve and Peter and Buffy there because it was months of meeting, going through the process of deciding where it would be and what it would be. So anyways, it was a nice, I would say culmination, but it's not a culmination. It's a nice spring, but it was certainly a nice way to kick off the beginning of the culmination. Also, ECB met last night or last month. I don't know if you have seen on the Town of Meadow webpage, they're going through a project now where environmental or EPODs, environmental protected overlay districts, not even in the town, they're kind of a mystery to people. Usually people find out about EPODs when there's an issue with EPODs. So anyways, as part of their public outreach, they want to kind of demystify the whole process. So they came up with an idea, very good idea, of going through EPODs one at a time and just explaining what they are. how they're defined in the town code. So we published kind of an introductory graphic for it, published EPOD 7, which is the most problematic sometimes for people, which is woodland. So anyways, gives a little bit of information about that. And we would like at the end of this, when we have all 9, to have a place on the website where people can have that. So
It's on the town website.
it was on the Facebook page, it was posted. It will be on the town.
All the EPODs are on.
Oh, yeah, the EPODs are, but this is kind of a user-friendly way of looking at it. You know, I could look at the EPOD map on the town website. It doesn't make much sense in this space.
Right.
So,
And all the meetings for the Veterans Memorial, I know you and Cindy were at, I was not able to attend because of open meetings law, but those were all advertised to the public, right? So anybody could come to those meetings and voice their opinion.
yeah, we made a schedule early on. Early on, we met every 2 weeks, was it?
Every 2 weeks, and then I think it was just the last month from July to August, I think we had just 1 month.
Yeah, and at that point, we were
We were just finalizing.
finalizing the plans. But I mean,
I think we met 13 times.
And you know, Muffy, I mean, it was thorough. We started out with a list of what sites there were. We went through the pluses, we went through the minuses. You know, sometimes the minutia was, and I explained this when I think it was the last board meeting, is we would sit there for an hour, we would churn through a bunch of information, and you know, the next meeting, Muffy would come back. Muffy, and I want to give Dan credit too, but Dan was on the was literally changing the spreadsheet as we were doing it. But she would come back with it all distilled and very concise.
Very much.
I don't know how she did it, but
I don't need it.
it was great. So
And did we have many people attend that weren't on the Citizens Advisory Committee?
I don't think there was anyone.
I just,
No.
if anybody had any interest at that time.
And of course, this thing we gave Teresa, we allowed her to kind of steer where she wanted it to be because it's her husband. And God love her, she was at every meeting, spoke very well, and she also represented the other 2 families who were very much in favor of the plan.
Thank you. Anything else, John?
So that's it.
John?
I have a meeting to attend representing town of Mendon tomorrow night at the village fire department. They will display plans. Committee group for over a year to develop and finalize plans for a new fire hall. It seems to be finally moving forward. It certainly seems as though it's needed. As they're in a building built in 1944. So that is something I'll be at tomorrow night, and John and I will be meeting Thursday morning. Now that we have secured the situation with the splash pad, we'll be meeting with a different representative of Manila, who is a specialist in memorials and landscape architecture. We certainly will probably use the emblem that was supplied by the Army Air National Guard, New York State. But how we compose that will be worked on with us and Labella so that we can come to a conclusion, probably an approved conclusion, maybe even with the committee again, or leadership of the committee, and then understand the dollar amounts, because the money for the memorial will be raised by a fundraising and will not be paid for by the town. That's all I have.
Thank you. I have a couple items. First of all, I received communication from the village of Honey Falls mayor regarding the ambulance service and the fact that Lima is again having a problem with having a crew during the day. And he's finding that the ambulance is going more and more to Lima, which has been problematic, as we all know. Going back several years. And he's having discussions with Lima now about what they feel is their future. And as we know, Lima doesn't pay anything, but
as part of their certificate of need, so they have to go if they're called. And Lima has basic life support, and Honey Falls has advanced life support. So they have to go, and town and village of Lima aren't paying anything. And of course, town many residents are paying the majority of the budget for that item. So, it's something we'll have to keep an eye on going forward. And John and I met with the village numerous times in November with the village, because we talked about setting up a different type of contract, different parameters for costs. Also, I'll be out of town November 5th through the 7th. Deputy Supervisor Green, will also be out of town, so I'm naming Jim Mirsky as Deputy Supervisor from November 5th to November 7th. Let's see, our fiscal stress scores, I sent this to everybody via email, 3.3. Anything under 40 is considered fine, and 100 is the worst, 0 is the best. Ours came back to 3.3. I also handed out our debt service to everybody, so you had a chance to look at that. I also compared it to 2009, because I thought it was kind of interesting that 2009, of course, was before the library was built. It was before the water district on Smith Road was completed, and our total debt service in 2009 was $2 million, just over $2 million. Our total debt service today is 1.6 million, and approximately 1.3 million of that is the Smith Road water extension and the library construction. So we've reduced our debt considerably over the last few years. I also wanted to mention that the county completed their traffic study for Sibley Road. They did not see any reason to lower the speed limit there. It's a county road to put any kind of weight limit on that road. The speed signs that we purchased have been up on Taylor and Quaker, and both have received positive responses from residents. The people I talked to, some people on Taylor, and they said they noticed a definite speed reduction for those signs there. I attended a Kiwanis meeting recently, and all the exterior pole lights at the library are replaced with LED lights. Let's see. And that concludes my communication. We'll move on to Supervisor's monthly report.
Make a motion to approve this monthly report for September of 2021.
Any discussion? You can see we have, yes, we received almost all of our projected revenue through the end of September, which is excellent. And our expenses are just over 60%. Our all the numbers look good, and I don't see anything that takes hold. We definitely will receive money from county going forward in DA and DB. Back up a little bit as far as expenses.
What is the recommended fund balance percentage based on the controller's recommendation?
The controller's recommendation is for the town to establish its own fund balance policy, which we have done. And our policy says that we should have 3 months of expenditures if we had 0 revenue coming in. So if the bottom dropped out of everything, we could go business as usual for 3 months, which amounts to about $1.3 million. And we have about $1.4 million in unassigned fund balance. So we're pretty much right on. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Move on to town clerk's monthly report.
Make a motion to accept the town clerk's monthly report, to acknowledge receipt of that for September 2021, showing receipts and disbursements in the amount of $12,139.
Second.
Any discussion?
A lot of dog life.
It's a big month for dog renewal.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Number 8, we don't have any minutes. There are no minutes that have been presented to us at this point in time. Move on to number 9, which are budget transfers and adjustments.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget adjustments as noted in tonight's agenda.
Any discussion? Relatively small amounts, for this time of year, quite frankly, 4 budget adjustments are fair enough. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Move on to vouchers.
I'd like to approve all claims and vouchers number 21660 to 21739 and general abstract 21-10, the amount of $99,950.71.
Second.
Just want to note that about $40,000 of that was for, we paid to the county for striping roads in town. And there's like another 18 for health costs.
Any discussion? Those are town roads.
Town,
Yes, we made them straight town roads.
yes.
They can pay the county.
Oh, right. We paid the county to strike the town.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
I also like to acknowledge the library vouchers 21-118 to 21-132 on library abstract 21-10, the amount of $10,944.12.
Thank you. We'll move on to this is a public hearing. Call the public hearing at 7:23. Once again, if you're here, if you'd like to comment, please provide your name, address, limit your comments to 3 minutes or less until we have a chance for everyone to speak, and then we'll go back around again. And Danny, if you get anybody online, let me know. Would anyone like to speak? There is one change that I'm proposing to the budget, and that is because of a recent small claims that has come through, which reduced our town outside the village taxable assessment. And that number would change from the town outside to $759,263,540. And that is a slight reduction of, I think it's $36,000 from that small claims case. I would also mention, while the public hearing is open, that the library debt, which just make sure it's actually here, which is currently at $880,000, is not. That bond is not, we're not able to pay that down sooner. It's a 30-year bond, does not have a payout in advance.
We did establish a reserve fund several years ago. We had to put money into a reserve fund because I checked with the comptroller's office. They said that's acceptable to put money in there for the library bond in a reserve fund. So if there's ever a year when the town board is strapped for cash, they can take that money from the reserve fund and pay down the bond. And we have put money in there from time to time. So that I did want to mention that. And then I did want to mention that the position of deputy supervisor is one that I think for continuity, I had put that into the budget. I had spoken to the board about that. I had some ideas about that, but obviously, you know, after the first of the year, the board can make any decisions it wants to as far as appointments and make decisions for appointments. The elected officials were published in the paper with the notice of this public hearing, and those salaries cannot be changed without establishing a new public hearing. Anybody have any other questions regarding the budget? Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Danny, anybody online wish to comment or speak?
No.
Okay, thank you. This point, oh, yes, ma'am.
Cecily Nolan, 153 Hammond Road, Onion Falls. I actually have a question, which anyone wants to ask questions. So I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it as a statement. I do note that the deputy supervisor had not for prior years had a dollar sum attached to it. And so I'm thinking that if someone is going to be paid more than prior years, there probably should be an increase in responsibilities enough to warrant that use of taxpayer dollars. So I'm trusting that this board will make sure that there is a robust position so that the taxpayer will feel that in fact it's fine to pay for something that you not paid for before.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Absolutely. And as the board knows, we've had 4 retirements of our 20 full-time employees. We've already retired 4 people, and now we have a 5th person who's a long-standing elected official who's retiring at the end of the year. So my plan was to talk to and I had talked to the soon-to-be retired town clerk about taking on that position, because there will be a new town clerk January 1st. And I do think it's important, as we've done before, with securing Tom Voorhees and Mary Fletcher as subcontractors to be able to bridge these positions, because we lost over, with those 5 people, we've lost over 100 years experience with government. I feel that it's important to bridge that gap, and that's why I put the deputy supervisor in the budget with a dollar figure, because if the current town clerk agrees to that position in 2022, I think it would be great to have that person as advisor, both for the town clerk, the supervisor's position, and or anybody at town hall who could use the long wisdom of the current town clerk. So that was my purpose. I did explain that to the board in the previous meeting, but just for the sake of transparency, I thought I would mention that tonight.
And I think it's important to say how when you became town supervisor, and I know that purchased anecdotally is you relied a lot on Jim's experience.
Yeah.
When there are questions that need to be answered by you, Jim was, having been here for prior to you being here, was a great resource. So I think that's actually a pretty decent use of money.
As was Tom.
Yeah, Tom, yes,
Gary
Tom and
Fletcher,
Jerry and all those.
Bud Smith, all those folks, just have a wealth of knowledge. So I think what we've done over the years is we try to keep ask that person if they would stay on as a consultant, so that we could basically call them and have them come in and look at things when necessary. And I think it's really bridged the gap to the person who's
I just think
It's really been a big help.
we've just found ourselves in a place where a lot of people with a lot of, like you said, a lot of years of experience, retiring at the same time, so. I think
Is it a one, sorry, is it a 1-year role that will terminate after a year?
Yes. And obviously, in 2022, the town board can eliminate the position, it can do a budget transfer, it can do whatever it wants, sure. Okay.
Right.
Because it's not an elected position, as I mentioned.
I've been doing it for free.
You gotta put a bill in, right? So at this point, I would ask if there's no other further comments, if there's a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We'll move on to number 12, which is a resolution to move the budget from preliminary to final budget.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the town amended 22 final budget.
For the changes.
With the amendments.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we'll move on to a public hearing for the capital improvement plan. I'll open that at 7:31 p.m. Once again, if you would please provide your name, address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes or less until you get a chance to go around the room. Anybody online? Dean?
There's a gentleman watching, but no comments.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to close the public hearing? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next is number 14, a resolution to accept the town of Mendon's capital improvement plan.
Make the motion to approve the 2022 capital improvement plan.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Move on to number 15.
Make a motion to approve the attendance of Kelly Parmalee, Finance Director for PERMA Conference at Turning Stone, October 28th, 2021.
I'll second that.
So PERMA is our workers' comp. And they put on these things a couple times a year. This was pretty close. And Kelly has been working very diligently with PERMA on workers' comp issues and making sure we've got all our training and that type of thing. So I think it's a good expenditure. There's no cost other than her mileage. Any other discussion?
Can I just ask a quick question about that? So we have to approve that even though there's no cost, just the.
Sheldon, would you like to answer that?
Well, we generally do have the town board approve things like this, that there is a cost in terms of mileage. But it just has been our practice to have all of these things approved by the town.
Okay.
And as I understand it, if there was some type of a tragic accident or something like that, it would be from the town side of things, insurance wise, would be
To make it clear that they're on the job.
that they're on the job.
A workers' comp issue.
Hopefully not. Yes. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next is a resolution to change the November town board.
Make the motion to change the date of the November 2021 town board meeting from the 8th to the 15th.
So, any discussion? Everyone's available, I'll take. Yeah. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next is a resolution to schedule a public hearing for the Town of Mendon Fire Protection District contract. You all have a copy of that contract.
Second. Good.
Any discussion? It's the annual fire protection contract. This is for the fire protection district, which is basically north of the village of Pioneer Falls, and it's a very squiggly line, approximately around Westwood Road. It's follow a straight line by any means, and this is the annual contract that we've been contracting with the village of Pioneer Falls for as long as I know. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have a resolution to procure market value appraisal for 1383 Pittsburgh Mendon Road and 3808 Rush Mendon Road.
Make a motion to authorize the supervisor to enter into a contract and Bruckner for market value appraisal for two properties, 1383 Pittsburgh Road and 3808 Rush Mendon Road, not to exceed $1,900 from account B 8023.400 contracted services.
Any discussion?
Well, I'll second that.
Oh, I'm
You
sorry.
didn't have a second. That's
Sorry. Any discussion? So one property is Route 64, just north of the gas station, that is currently for sale, and the other one is on the Rush Mendon Road that is not on the market, but is through the efforts of the planning board chair, has the individual has indicated a willingness to possibly sell that piece of property. And I think these pieces of property in the hamlet do not come up very often. We have no municipal parking in the hamlet. We have a situation with septic and the Runaway Creek that I think it would be very good idea for the town board to look into acquiring either or possibly both of these pieces of property, so that for the future, so that some of these issues regarding parking and or septic can be looked at from a longer term.
How many acres is the 251 property?
Brent, do you know off the top of your head?
17 acres. Thank you.
Is that the corner property?
No, it's up the hill. It's
Oh,
above.
Hillcrest. So I talked to our assessor Jim McGrath, and he recommended Mr. Bruckner, and I contacted Mr. Bruckner to use this estimate.
All this does is secures the value should we want to consider moving forward. One or both.
Yes. And as Sheldon has mentioned to me, we can't pay more than appraised value. So we've got, step one is to get appraised. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Our new number 19 is payment in the amount of $2,061.37 to Fallside Heating and Air Conditioning. And that was paid out of various accounts because he does all our buildings. We did an RFP in the spring. We received more than 3 quotes, and this was the lowest quote to do the spring and fall work. Includes the community center, the library, town hall, the highway department, and the youth center. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We are back to public comment. Once again, if you'd like to speak at this time, we ask that you please provide your name, address, limit your comments to 3 minutes or less until we have a chance for everyone to speak. Is there a motion for adjournment?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.